But obviously, Rob, the big news of the day, everyone knows it. Aaron Rodgers has finally been traded from the Green Bay Packers to the New York Jets. They what they did was they switched. We knew the Jets didn't want to give up this year's first round pick, which was the 13th pick. So what they did was swap picks with the Packers. So the Jets gave up the 13th pick to the Packers, and the Jets will select 15th. So they still should be able to get the offensive lineman that they're looking for at that spot. I'm sure that's what they believe. They're also giving up a second-round pick this year, and next year a second-round pick that hopefully for the Jets, right, becomes a first-round pick if Aaron Rodgers plays 65% of the snaps. And if he doesn't, then you got a lot more to worry about than just losing that first-round pick. So, Rob, first, I mean, you had come around to understanding this was going to happen, or were you still believing that you wouldn't believe it until you saw it?
Yeah, I was still of that belief, that I believe it when I see it. And then they made the trade, and so I have to believe it now. But I always thought there was I don't know. I guess I've seen this movie before, and I just felt like, God, to do the same exact thing, the Packers and the Jets, with both of the quarterbacks that left their franchise after a long time. It didn't work out with Brett Favre. Right. Exactly.
Who looked good until he got injured with the Jets. I mean, they weren't likely to win the Super Bowl, but they were playing well. I think they started out 9-3. And then
they didn't make the playoffs that year.
Like 9-7, yeah.
It was weird. I thought it was 8-3, but you were right, somewhere right around there. So
right,
yeah, now comes the futures for both teams, and I'm with you. I don't know how they don't give up a first round pick. The conditional 65% is not a lot. Like if he doesn't have 65% of plays, that means he didn't play. He's hurt.
That means he got hurt. Yeah,
right. That's what I'm saying. Yeah. Right. So your season went down the drains. If you're hoping that you don't have to give up that pick, so you know what I'm saying. You conceded.
I mean, they conceded that pick.
That pick, a first round pick, because that's what it is. I mean, unless he gets hurt on the first play of the season or something like that.
Well, let me ask you this, Rob, because Aaron Rodgers will be 40 in December. So maybe the answer is pretty obvious, but is this a Super Bowl or bust? And I don't even mean just this season. Because presumably, right, he'll play next season as well. He does have 2 years left on his deal. So let's even give him a little leeway. In these next 2 years, is it Super Bowl or bust for Aaron Rodgers and the Jets?
I mean, that's always the thing for all teams. I just don't see, like, the Jets really believing that they're going to the Super Bowl. That's just me. I'm
not
make
this deal then?
Because they were so desperate because of the quarterbacks that they had. They've done this before. I think I gave you a list of quarterbacks that have come to the Jets at the end of their careers. And all quarterbacks, we talked about this before. Joe Montana went somewhere else. Peyton Manning went somewhere else. Tom Brady went somewhere else. Right. This is more norm in the NFL than anywhere. So this is not that unusual, because we've seen it with Bart Starr and Joe Namath, Chris, and we could go on and on and on of quarterbacks who finished their career elsewhere. But the Jets just haven't had good luck. And as good as they played a year ago, Chris, and at least the start of the season, I just think the AFC, when I look in that division, am I convinced that they're the best team or the third best team? I'm not even convinced.
No, look.
I'm just being honest. I
think you're right on the money. Unless Buffalo takes a major step back.
Yep, and the Dolphins go south.
And they're young. Buffalo's still young for the most part. So the only reason for them, I mean, if they take a step back, Rob, it is a massive failure. It's not like their superstar quarterback is old, right? It's not like their star receiver is old. I get it, Von Miller's up there, but that defense was solid without, even without Von.
No, you expect them to win the division. You expect the Buffalo Bills to win the division unless something terribly happens. Would you say that?
Right.
I mean, that going into the season.
Unless I totally agree. And Miami, when Tua's there, they win. Now, that may be a big if. We'll give you that. But when Tua's there, they win. Their skill positions are magnificent. Mike McDaniel did a good job last year as a rookie coach. So I agree with you. The only certainty in my view, at least right now, is that New England's the worst team in the division. But outside of that, I feel you on the Jets. And again, when you look through the whole AFC, let me put it this way, Rob. Personally, for me, I've said it before, I don't think the MVP level Aaron Rodgers is coming back. Now, if I'm wrong, then the Jets have to be a Super Bowl contender, not just a playoff team. If he's the MVP Aaron Rodgers of 3 and 2 years ago, then there's no reason to think the Jets shouldn't be right there with Kansas City and Buffalo and all those teams and Cincinnati in the AFC. But if he's closer to the Aaron Rodgers we saw last year, Rob, I do think he'll be better because his weapons are better. You know, Garrett Wilson, McCole Hardman, Allen Lazard, they got a nice skill package with him with the Jets. They obviously have to improve the offensive line, which I'm sure is their goal in the draft. But he'll improve it himself just by being a smart quarterback who can get rid of the ball fast and things like that. But Rob, so for me, knowing he's about to turn 40, if he gets them to the playoffs and they're relevant and maybe you get a few postseason thrillers, not that they win the AFC because I don't see that happening, but I think if he did that, maybe second round, maybe conference championship would be great, then I think this is a win for the Jets. That's me. But I hear a lot of people already, Rob, comparing it to Tom Brady going to the Buccaneers and to Matthew Stafford even going to the Rams. And so by that standard, they're saying they won Super Bowls. Why can't Rodgers? Why shouldn't Rodgers?
Well, I'll give you two reasons. One, when you talk about the Rams, they had already gone to the Super Bowl,
right?
Chris,
They
before Stafford got there. So they had a Super Bowl roster before. And let's just be honest. Tampa Bay had a special defense, Chris, in place. And they had a quarterback who threw 30 interceptions, and they finished like 500. Or what was their record? Like 7-9 with a quarterback that threw 30 interceptions. So you know how much harm that did to their team as far as winning, giving the ball away, putting the defense in bad spots, right? If you turn the ball over, things like that. So they weren't that far away despite their record. If you get a quarterback who could eliminate, and obviously Tom Brady went from 30, I don't know what he had, Chris, 12, 10, you know what I mean? Like, he cut it into a third.
He was great for him that first year.
That's what I'm saying.
But here's what I'd say, though. That's the Jets. The Jets were fourth in the league last year in points allowed. And the Jets had horrific quarterback play. Basically, they had the worst quarterback play in the league. And they were 7-10. So that's the same position that the Buccaneers were in. While the team was bad, you knew they had a good defense, and you knew if they had adequate quarterback play, and they had great skill positions, you know, with Evans and Godwin, and obviously they added Antonio Brown and Gronk later. So that even makes it even better. But the Jets is good. Wilson looks like a star in the making. Was terrific as a rookie. And then Lazard he's comfortable with Lazard, who's a good, second, third receiver, and McCole Hardman. So I just don't think
who was the competition for Tampa Bay in that division? Just the Saints. Just the Saints. I'm just saying, just the Saints. Compared to the Jets have to basically leapfrog over two.
That's the
two
thing.
teams that are better.
The AFC is just tougher.
That's all I'm saying. And I
don't think Rodgers is as good, especially now. Like, as Brady was. I mean, Brady, we just know about his career, but even when he went there, he was spectacular. He didn't have weapons at all. Now, if you want to say, people want to say, well, Rodgers didn't have weapons. Rob, we talked about it. That's why you and I thought they could still have a great season without Devontae Adams, because he had been 7-0 without Adams during his MVP seasons. But last year we saw he could no longer do it without a superb receiver like that. But Rob, it was on him the last game. The rally that they made at the end of the season, it wasn't in spite of him, but he certainly wasn't like the driving force statistically. I just don't know that he's going to have it. Rob, I'll say this. I think we'll learn a lot about what Aaron Rodgers we're going to get if he shows up or doesn't show up for off-season workouts. If he's there for off-season workouts and he is engaged with these new receivers that he's got to get used to, then if I'm a Jets fan, I'm thinking, okay, maybe he will, even if he's not MVP level, he'll be much better than he was last year. If he doesn't show up for off-season workouts, I don't know. It leaves a sour taste in my mouth if I'm a Jets fan.